November now. We've got the elections in New York tomorrow, Pete, and that could be something pretty interesting. We've got all the 411 on the stocks, as well as our predictions for some sports on today's Rebels Edge. Bang.
We wanted to pump you up, man. There he is, Patrick Mahomes of college football. Otherwise, Raiola.
Well, sadly, that was when he could still walk.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw the game, but for those who didn't, sadly, he broke his tibia, Pete.
Something like that. Yeah, he's out. But
he's out for the rest of the year.
There's no better opening than these guys, John. I'll tell you what, Nebraska does it right. The music, the pump up that they've got everybody. We figured we'd pump up everybody for the start of the show today, because this was a blackout that I was involved in down there in Lincoln, John. And I'll tell you what, they deserve better. They deserve better, because they are the best fans I have ever seen. And I can't remember what the consecutive sellouts is. It's not padded. It's not anything. This is real. That's what those guys do. And they fill that stadium up at home every single week for I don't know how many years. It must be, 25, 35 years or something straight.
Yeah.
And they want to add some seats,
They travel, too. They travel, too.
Oh, they travel. They'll turn an away game into a home game. But they haven't had the same kind of winning that they always have had for so many years. And it was really great to be down there. I was lucky enough to be in there with T.O.'s up in his box for the whole game and on the field.
Tell everybody who T.O. is.
Oh, Tom Osborne. He goes by T.O., but Coach Osborne's probably one of the best I've ever met. I mean, he's first class. You talk to any of those players, he always reached out to them, John, good, bad, or whatever. And just, well, there you go. There's Coach Solich off on the far left. There's Coach right there in the middle. He's 88 years old, still moving around, doing his thing. And one of the linebackers, Ed, that's next to him, great guy, was an All-American linebacker there, and now he works in the athletic department at USC, who was the counter team in the game. And that big fellow over there, let me tell you something. Brendan Stye, he looks like he can still play, John. I mean, this guy's got multiple Super Bowl rings. He's bounced around the NFL, went to this Pittsburgh Steelers with the New England Patriots, and he lives in Lincoln, and he's part of the sports group back in Lincoln, and he is special for the university. They love him, and he's a kid. How about this? He came from San Diego, and here he is. He's living back in Lincoln because he absolutely loves that school. I mean, how great is that?
Yeah, well, it's a special place.
Yeah.
It is very cool. It's not 110,000 or whatever like Michigan or Ohio State, but it's 78,000 strong. And like you said, just an incredible amount of support that fan base gives that team, even when they're not as perhaps deserving of that support. At least they're not like they're not the kind of fans that just show up when they have a national championship run. They show up all the time.
And they're down, John.
Sort of like us.
They haven't really had that team that they had in a long, long time. And yet those guys show up every single week, home and away. They are so supportive. It's absolutely incredible. So they deserve more because they are damn good. Then it's been quite a few years since they were really relevant. So they're hoping, I think, and they just extended the coach's contract. So we'll be talking a little bit about that when we get back to sports, but I know we should jump right into the macro. So I'll let you start it out.
All right, let's do the macro then, Pete. As you'll hear, there's a lot going on with macro and tech again, in particular data centers. So I'm going to say, Pete, that even though the market's kind of wishy-washy today, it's not strong to the upside. The NASDAQ's recovering because of that tech side stuff, but the Dow was down a little, but very little going into mid-session. So I'm going to say it's about data centers and AI, Pete.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, John. I'd also just throw out there the fact that this shutdown is extending time, right? I mean, it's something that I think a lot of people are kind of getting a little bit more nervous. I think each week it makes sense that we'd be a little bit more nervous than the previous week because we're right now sitting there ready to get back at 35 days on this thing, and historically we're about to break that number. So it'll be interesting to see if we can make any progress on this or not. It seems like we're stuck where we are, and I don't know when that's going to get cleaned up, John, but I think that's one thing that's still kind of hanging on the market a little bit because earnings have been phenomenal, as you and I both know. So that's actually been the big check mark. And I think a lot of people are understanding more and more about energy and all the rest of it. So I think if we can get this shutdown taken care of, I think you made this call, and I totally agree with you last week when you said, you know what, we get out through that shutdown, we might have a spike of 800 points, maybe 1,000 on the Dow, potentially, but we'll see. It's still not even close from what I'm looking at.
Well, a lot of folks thought that the Dems might hold out until after the election results are out, Pete. Yep. So with the election tomorrow, Tuesday, we might be waiting until Wednesday to see which way we slide. All right. Speaking of sliding, the Bitcoin futures, Pete, are getting cracked again, down about 3%. Every time we get back up to 110,000 per US dollar, we trade right back down. And that's what we did today. We're hanging out around 106,000. So that's my fantastic future.
I'll throw my fantastic future out there, John, just real quick. We talked about October and what we were looking at and that big spike we got fairly mid-October up there towards 25 on the VIX. We pulled all the way back to 16. And in the last week of October, we started creeping back up again. And here we are today at about an 18. Makes sense to me, John. And I think a lot of that does have to do with the shutdown. I mean, people are digesting all of the earnings and understanding how strong and how powerful they've been. But they're still, I think, a little bit nervous, probably for the right reasons, about the shutdown and when this is going to come through. Now, to your point, you get through some of these elections, and we've got mayoral happening here in Minnesota, both Minneapolis and St. Paul. So they'll be voting on that come tomorrow, and maybe we'll start seeing some changes politically, and we'll see things start to move around a little bit. But until we get through this shutdown, I think people are a little bit more anxious right now than they were when we were just focusing on earnings.
Well, let's talk about earnings a little bit, Pete, in today's stock look, but we'll focus a lot on deals because there were a lot of deals. So take a look at this one. This is IREN, IREN. And what do? Well, they're an Australian-based company that owns, operates data centers that are powered 100% by renewable energy. Well, Microsoft liked the idea of that. So they said, you know what? We'll give you a contract that's going to be almost $10 billion for you to run that for us. And then, Pete, they're going to be doing it. Isn't just, of course, they're an Australian-based company, but they're going to be doing a lot of stuff deploying it here in the United States. And we had unusual activity in this name, folks, but I want to show you because some of you think, well, all Jon and Pete ever talk about are the big winners. And we love to talk about the big winners, certainly. But this one was one where they were right church, right pew, but the day was off, Pete, the timing, because they were October 17th expiring calls. So take a look at it, $62 where the stock was. Somebody got over 800,000 share equivalent into that trade, and then they expired pretty much worthless. Yeah. So that just shows you that not every UOA works, but especially since we like doing one call against another, we're compressing the amount of money that we put out there. And nonetheless, they pointed us in the right direction. Yep. So big trade in IREN, great for them, not so great for the people that picked the 2 week ago expiring calls.
Yeah, well, it just shows you, I mean, it's a difficult world. We don't know. They don't know the exact answer, but obviously when we see that UOA, we want to follow it. And did it work for us on that particular one? No, you're exactly right, John. But they sure understood that something was out there, something very big, and that's exactly what we got. I mean, this Microsoft deal, as you pointed out, nearly $10 billion value for the AI cloud services and so forth. And I'll tell you what, they also have this partnership with Dell Technology as well. There's a lot of things going on here. Tell you what, John, November 6th is their earnings. So that's not that far away, with today being the 3rd. So I would keep an eye on this name still, despite the fact that we already had this move. When we're talking about something like this that can go into the size for the data centers that they can do, and it's renewable 100%, I would say that this is a company that you want to have at least on your screens and keep an eye on it if you're not going to be in a part of it.
Well, let's switch over to Kimberly-Clark, Pete, because Kimberly-Clark, of course, Pampers, toilet paper, paper towels, all that kind of stuff. Well, they're doing a deal to acquire KenVue, symbol KVUE, and they are the makers, as it turns out, of Tylenol. And Tylenol's not without its warts, Pete, because a lot of people are a little concerned about the potential for it being something that might either accelerate autism or be responsible in some cases for autism, depending on how the user used it while she was pregnant or whatever. Well, so that's just a little bit of some of the negative side. The beastly good side is that they were buying upside calls in KVUE, Pete. So they were buying those calls just the 22nd, which was a week and a half ago almost, and they were buying May calls. Well, they were spot on this one, and they gave themselves all the way out till May to be right. So pretty big deal, $49 billion deal. And look at that spike, Pete. That's what you love to see with a UOA.
Absolutely. I will say this, John, it is amazing. I mean, we see some of the unusual that happens here. This time they basically were saying, you know what, we don't know what the timing is, but we think it's going to happen within the next year. That's why they moved out as far as they did. They got out to May. And obviously this is pretty much of a home run for them, I would say. Not so bad. And you were talking about some of those liabilities. This is a company that was spun out by J&J just a couple of years ago. So is there some nervousness around it? Yes. Is there some positives still that exist around it? Yes. And so, Kimberly-Clark, yeah, they're down a little bit today. Actually, more than a little bit. 12%, something like that. But I think for KenVue, when you look at this, and we talk about these deals all the time, how about almost a $49 billion deal? I would say that I'd like to know who some of those investment bankers are on there, but I think we already know most of the names that are probably involved in this thing.
Well, and then, Pete, another deal, but not a takeover in this case, CIFR Mining, CIFR. So what do? Well, they're focused on operations for data centers for Bitcoin mining. But you know what else you can do with those same data centers, Pete? I know you know this, but you can also use those data centers for a little AI support. And you know who steps up and says, hey, we want some of that, and we'll give you $5.5 billion for a 15-year lease? Amazon Web Services, AWS. So they step up and they say, hey, we want you guys to help us out. We're going to put up a site in West Texas with you guys for you guys to help support our Amazon Web Services. And the stock spiked as much as 25%. It's still holding on to about a 16% gain, Pete.
Yeah, last I'd seen it was about 19%, but I'll go with your 16%. That's probably more accurate right now. But it certainly is something that's been moving. And you know what? Anytime you're involved with Amazon and what they're doing, and let's not forget, one of the reasons why when we talk about Amazon and we talk about cloud and we talk about the Amazon Web Services, they are the biggest and the baddest out there. This stock had a really nice move to the upside this morning in Amazon. We just had some buyers of calls on Amazon. So is this more of a CIFR thing or Amazon thing? I actually lean more towards the Amazon side of this thing because of what we're seeing happening right there and all of what goes into this thing with the power and the AI, the whole thing. So CIFR Mining, interesting, nice big move to the upside. I also loved some of the unusual in that movement that we got out of Amazon as well, John.
Well, and speaking of Amazon, Pete, they had another bit of good news today. So Amazon, they're going to supply OpenAI with cloud computing services Gee, I wonder what that is. Amazon Web Services, AWS, a multi-year $38 billion deal, Pete, that'll give ChatGPT access to hundreds of thousands of those NVIDIA GPUs. So this is a really big deal, Pete, and unusual activity in this one as well, my friends, because just last Friday, Halloween, we had the stock at 245 and somebody bought 13,000 calls. Now, every option's for 100 shares. So that means 1.3 million shares and the stock moves up by $12.22, as you see there, folks. So that's a pretty good trade, especially since they paid $2.75 for those calls, Pete, which is $275 for each option. Again, because every option's for 100 shares. But whichever one of these bits of news, whether it's CIFR or whether it's this one with OpenAI, this is a big deal. And our subscribers really got to ring the register on this one, Pete.
They did indeed. And fortunately for us, you and I have been looking at some of those options as well. Not such a bad return on some of those things. Pretty impressive. I like what we see. Sam Altman, from the CEO of OpenAI, is talking about the amount of spend, John. I can't even, literally put that in my head to think of what he was talking about, $1.4 trillion. But anyway, OpenAI, certainly an interesting story. And I'll tell you what, this multi-year deal for the $38 billion or $39 billion allows access for NVIDIA as well, the graphics of NVIDIA. So there's just nothing but positives in this whole storyline. And as you mentioned, that unusual option activity, holy smokes, they were dead on. And that was a pretty phenomenal, that was just literally Friday, as you said. Was it spooky? Not at all. Actually, this was fantastic. We loved seeing it. That's the OA that works. We already pointed out, that there was one that didn't work. They missed the time frame. Well, this one, they hit the time frame pretty damn good, John, when you take a look at this one. Absolutely amazing. And Amazon, I think people forget sometimes. They look at these guys differently than you and I do, John. And we've been saying this for so many years, and yet I still hear people on TV talking about Amazon, and they go, well, what they do is this and that. What they do is cloud. Let's be honest. That's what they are. They're an AWS, the biggest and the baddest of them all. So I think if people start to understand that better, they'll understand why Amazon trades the way it does. And in this trade today and this spike that we're seeing today just is a great example of how big and bad Amazon truly is.
Yep, they are. And they do a little bit of everything too. It's really hard to pigeonhole them in one thing, but like you said, the biggest profit margin thing by far is AWS. Yeah, let's be real. All right. Should we get into a little sports, Pete?
Yeah, let's jump on it, John. I know that we already hit a little sports with that Nebraska opening when those guys do their walk, which is absolutely killer. So we're going to just jump right into it. College football. It's all about upsets and coaches being fired. I mean, it's absolutely been an incredible year. And I was talking actually to Coach Osborne when we were down there at Nebraska. And I'll be at Clemson this weekend, as a matter of fact, John. So it'll be fun to sit down with Dabo Swinney and talk about some of the things that he's seeing with the portal and all these NIL and all the different things that are going there. But right now, how about this? Here's the list of upsets just this weekend alone, John. Georgia Tech lost to NC State. Vandy lost to Texas. Miami lost to SMU. Oklahoma lost to Tennessee at Tennessee. Utah beat Tennessee. Utah slammed Cincinnati. Cincinnati was one of those schools that just had one defeat, and they were looking pretty good. Everybody was like, wow, these guys are pretty damn good. You don't want to go up against Utah, John. That's my first thing. Utah has deserved, in my opinion, a shot for the playoff because they are absolutely freak show good football team. They did lose to BYU, but BYU's pretty damn good football team too. They beat Cincinnati, who only had the one loss, John, 45-14. The number of points that these guys rack up is amazing. But how about on top of all that, you still got Ohio State undefeated. You still got Indiana undefeated. All Indiana does is just absolutely overpower people with their offense and their defense. They really are special, John. They're 9-0 right now. But Hugh Freeze is the most recent coach to get fired from Auburn. But we've got him. We've got Billy Napier. Listen to this. We had Franklin, but James Franklin actually just signed with Virginia Tech. So that's one that's filled up. UCLA, it was Va Tech, Stanford, Oregon State, Colorado State, UAB, Oklahoma State, Arkansas. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I don't know that I ever remembered a year like this. What do you think about what's going on in college football? And these guys, like we said last week, what's the best job in the world? To be a fired coach in college football. The money that you're going to get on top of the money you might sign for at the next school. Because I guarantee you a lot of these same coaches will be the head coach of a different school when it's all said and done.
Sure. Well, they have the experience. I'll offer this out there, Pete. Just like we've said from the beginning, these are pro football franchises where you didn't have to pay the franchise fee.
Yep.
You don't have what is now for most of these teams somewhere between $3 and $10 billion to own an NFL franchise. And three, I'm not even sure there's a team that would go for that cheap. Biggest loser out there would go for more than that, whether it's Cleveland or whatever. But get this. This is why he was fired. Mr. Freeze was fired. Arnold Schwarzenegger played Mr. Freeze in the Batman movie. By the way, first season, 2023, 6 wins, 7 losses, including a bowl loss in the Music City Bowl, which is barely even a bowl game. Second one, 5 wins, 7 losses, no bowl game because you got to win 6 to make it to a bowl game.
Right.
Third season, this season, Pete, 4 wins, 5 losses. And let's keep in mind that his SEC conference record, Pete, 6 wins, 16 losses. They went from being a tough team on the schedule to being a patsy. And it's hard to fill up those 90,000 seat SEC stadiums if you're viewed as a patsy. And sadly, that's what he was viewed as under his tutelage, Pete. They were patsies.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I mean, the reality is there's a lot of really good coaches out there. And then there's the next line of coaches, John, who can't win when it comes to going up against the better competition. And, great examples all over the place. I'm not going to go through the list of that, but it is amazing how many coaches, they get those first 3 games where they play nobody. I'll throw one out there. How about Michigan State? They started off the season 3-0, John. They had the 3 patsies that everybody likes to line up in the first couple of weeks of the season. Now in the Big Ten side of things, I think they're 0-6. So, and the Gophers just beat them this weekend in an overtime game. They can't find a win. So how long can you do that? Because the money is the money, and that's what's going to control these things when it's all said and done. And you need a coach who's going to be able to beat somebody who's maybe better than you or at least ranked. And some of these guys can't do it. They can win against the easy wins, but they can't win against the teams that they need to beat. And you know what? It's a heck of a lot of examples of that out there where the coach might even have a winning record, but you know what? Is it a winning record against teams with a winning record? No. So it's something I think people have to look at a lot of the time. John, next up we got the Chicago Bears, and I brought this one up because of you being a former Chicago Bear linebacker back in the day when they had some of the best defenses in the history of the NFL. Here's a great video that we're going to show you right now of this guy. Watch Austin Booker and how he takes off for the Bears against Cincinnati. And by the way, this Bengals team, I can't figure them out at all.
So last week against the Jets, just incredible. Flacco buried. Football came out. Chicago has recovered. Back to last week against the Jets.
That's an awesome. He's pushing a guy who weighs what, about 345, 350, something like that, John.
With one arm. With one arm. They just jacked him right underneath, Pete.
It's amazing.
I tell you what, if you're going right through a man, because he did, right through him, and the guy fell down on the ground as he went through him.
Yep.
If you're going through a guy that's 320 plus pounds like that, you've got a hell of a motor. And that guy showed it right there on that. That was an incredible play. And the Bears needed a bunch of incredible plays, sadly enough, because they started the game by giving Cincinnati a 100-yard touchdown run, Pete. It was just pathetic.
Well, I will say this. The Bears, when you played, they were known for defense, right? I mean, they were the best defense in all of football. Everybody was afraid of them because they were doing all this stuff that was a little bit new and people couldn't figure them out. And they
The 46 defense.
the 46 defense, exactly right. And they were animals. They made the Pittsburgh Iron Curtain look like a soft little curtain made out of some sort of something. But I'll tell you what, that defense that they played does not exist anymore. And it's a little bit like Nebraska. I was there watching them against USC. They used to call their defense the Black Shirts. They ain't the Black Shirts anymore, John. That's their Achilles heel. They got a decent offense, but they give up way too many yards. And a good example of that was yesterday. I mean, the good news is this. Caleb Williams might be as good as was marketed to us, John, and he's finally getting to that point. They gave him a lot of different folks out there to be able to get the ball to him, whether it's wide receivers. They gave him a first-round draft pick tight end. They've got some good running backs that came from within the division itself. But Caleb Williams, how about this? 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Now, Joe Flacco had a hell of a day, but he threw 2 interceptions with his 4 touchdowns and 470 yards. The only guy at his age to ever throw that ball like that. But it shows you that the NFL, more and more offense, great, but you still have to have some defense. But the good news is the Bears had enough defense. I say that likely because they gave up 42 points, but they did win the game. They win the game 47-42. Caleb Williams actually looks like that first pick in the draft quarterback that he was, John. Really, really special. They ran the ball really well. The Bears did. The Bears ran for 283 yards in the game. I mean, that's professional football. Running for 280 yards is something that used to be something that was just sort of closer to great, but more average. Now it's phenomenal. Everybody throws the ball every time, right? But more and more teams are starting to figure out, you know what? They've gotten so small at linebacker, we can run against these guys. We're going to run the ball until they start blitzing. When they start blitzing, we're going to throw the ball around to them. And that's what the good offensive coordinators are doing. Caleb Williams was really, really good yesterday. He's already had a pretty good start to the year, John. So I'm pretty excited about what your Bears are able to do.
Well, Pete, almost 2,000 yards, passing yards so far this year. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
12 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions. Also very good ratio there. And he's thrown about 61%. That one at the end of the game, Pete, where he hit the tight end, Loveland, I think, from Michigan, where he stepped up into the pocket with, you know, the pressure coming around him. So he had to step up in to let the pressure pass on the backside. He stepped up and hit him in stride, and the guy took it to the house. A kid missed a tackle, I think, on Loveland on that one. But nonetheless, that was the turning point that really put the Bears over the top for good. But you're exactly right. You're not going to win if you give up 40 points. Now, this was an exception that makes the rule, but usually you lose games that you give up 40 points. So they need to work on special teams and they need to work on defense. And they've certainly given Caleb Williams, to your point, though, Pete, all the tools he needs to be a top-level quarterback. That's for sure.
Yep. And they needed to work on the offensive line. It took a year. You know, when you go for that quarterback, you got to immediately get some offensive linemen. They've done that. They've got them running backs. They've got them receivers. They've got that tight end, like you just mentioned. They already had a good tight end in Komet, but this guy, Loveland, is really pretty special. That's why he was a first-round draft pick for them. I mean, he's a damn good tight end. He's not quite as good as the former Penn State tight end who went to Indianapolis, but he's pretty damn good and had a good career at Michigan. And now he's becoming somebody, I think, for Caleb Williams that's going to be a go-to guy for him. Good quarterbacks throw the ball to the damn tight end. I will say it until I die because it's so true. If you look at the greatest quarterbacks of all time, take a look at what the tight end, and I'm going all the way back to the days of Joe Montana and guys like that. They throw to the tight end. You know what? That tight end becomes an all-pro. John Frank was his tight end, I think, for 4 Super Bowls from Ohio State. Then he decided to pursue going back to medical school, John. He was a friend of mine. He went to medical school. He retired from football because he goes, hey, look, I got 4 rings. I'm walking away, man. My body's good. I'm out. And he became a doctor. So good tight ends. I'll tell you what, a smart quarterback will always find the tight end.
Well, and I'm surprised Pete didn't cover this one, folks, but his Vikings did eke out a 27-24 victory over one of the best teams in the NFL, the Lions.
Yep.
Now, they picked off JJ once, Pete, but to your point, they ran the ball effectively against the Lions because he only had 14 completions, JJ did. It was not a terribly impressive outing. He got 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, but that's his first game back, I think, wasn't it, Pete?
Yep.
So I'll give him a little more time to get the rust off against, obviously, a really good Detroit Lions team. He was sacked, 4 times, Pete? 5 times. Sacked 5 times. Caleb, who this year has cut his sacks way down. He led the league last year. Caleb Williams did 68 sacks for the Bears. And I think he's only been sacked about 14 times this year. Freaking JJ was sacked 5 times against the Lions, Pete. I guess Aiden Hutchinson and the crew were giving him the business pretty good. But they came away with a win, so you got to like that.
Yep. Great start. The people in Minnesota are excited because they were wondering, is this guy the quarterback of the future? They jumped to conclusions pretty quick because they immediately have already said yes. Now, I think you want to see a little bit bigger sample set than one game, but that's all we've got so far. So people are excited. You got to appreciate how excited they are that they saw a quarterback who ran the ball for a touchdown, threw the ball around a little bit, and I think he did a good job. But I will say this, the Detroit offensive line, they were toting guys off of there during the game, John, left and right. I mean, they got beat up, and they couldn't run the ball very well. They threw the ball pretty well, but the Vikings were smart, and they did a good job. They did a good enough job to win the football game. It was, 27-24, I think, something like that. So really good football game. It was tight. But in Detroit, if you can win there, you've done something pretty big. And I'm sure Dan Campbell was pretty ticked off about that game.
Oh, I'm sure he was. Well, so let's see, folks. We want to thank our friends here at the New York Stock Exchange for letting us shoot here. I'll try to be here, Pete, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week.
Wow.
Also, I'm going to be on with Liz Clayman at 3:30 Eastern time today from Fox Biz. So I'm going to head from here to there. And as always, we'd remind you guys that if you go to marketrebellion.com/get started, you can get some of the unusual activity that we cited throughout the show. You can get it right there, along with option education and so forth. So do yourself a favor, check it out, marketrebellion.com/get started. And we'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time.